My own vocation story is one of simply, I think, gradually coming to know and trust that the Lord has entrusted something to me, and with each passing day, more is asked. From my earliest memories of being an altar server and gradually being asked to do more in my parish as a youngster, the cultivation of myself as a budding young liturgist and liturgical person, from being an altar server to a sacristan and being involved in church ministry and youth ministry through high school and then in campus ministry and college. I just found myself, with everything that I agreed to do, found myself being drawn in, and more was being asked. And there was a gradual process of coming to trust that all the more, that if God was asking, it was okay to say yes. And Jesus' words today reminding us that more will be demanded of the person entrusted with more. That process that those who are dependable are just given more to do. I mean, that at times is frustrating, but it's also how we learn the lesson to trust. That if we're asked to do something and we say yes and we do it, the next time we're asked, we know that the one asking knows, well, I can count on that person. But it also means that from the perspective of the one being asked, it says to me, it's okay to say yes because everything's going to work. And where my own discernment of my vocation was through college and into seminary time, I was seeing that it was okay to say yes because the Lord was providing, the Lord was building me up, and it was okay not to say no. Now, I have to admit there are days now when I see that somebody from the Catholic Center is calling, like, what do they want now? I'm often ready to ignore it or say, oh my gosh, I can't talk to that person today because they're just going to ask me to do something. I had a lunch meeting yesterday with someone from the Catholic Center who asked me to be on another committee. So there are days that there's resistance to that. How much is enough? And as we celebrate the North American martyrs today, I can only imagine what they were feeling as they were sent into missionary territory, began eventually after a number of years of successful preaching and building up a communion of believers, that they began to meet with resistance, but they didn't back off. They didn't back away. And these 6 Jesuits were martyred over a period of several years, beginning in 1648. And even after the first one suffered martyrdom, the rest of them did not back away. They didn't say, okay, enough is enough, let's go. But they recognized all the more that with every step the Lord was asking them to make, they were built up all the more confidently in saying, it's okay to say yes to the Lord. It's okay to trust in Jesus. So the lesson for us at any moment is always to be looking at what the Lord has already given, what he has provided, to be assured that whatever the Lord asks, it's okay to say yes. We might find ourselves drawn in maybe a little bit more than we might want to be. And the lesson is not, if you see St. Joseph on your caller ID, don't ignore it thinking that I'm asking too much of you. But recognize that it's okay to trust in the Lord. It's okay to give yourself over. Thanks be to God, martyrdom in a literal sense will not likely be asked of any of us. But one never knows what the Lord might ask. And if we aren't built up in that process of trusting, when the big question comes, we might not be ready to say yes. But all along, it builds us up. Grace builds upon our nature, and grace builds upon grace, and so on and so on. And we find ourselves more confident and trusting that God will provide for what we need, and that, in fact, it is okay to say yes when God asks.